Hey there everyone, it's Austin Bach. We're back on Magic Online for another Ixalan draft. This will probably be one of my last Ixalan drafts, to be honest. I'm starting to get a little tired of this format, but felt like recording one more, just for old time's sake, just to try to send the format off before we move on to other formats as the Christmas season approaches. It's funny to call it the Christmas season, I guess, when we're still in October, but generally November to beginning of January I consider Christmas. Anyway, not important. I'm going to take Territorial Hammerskull out of this first pack. None of these cards really catch my eye, and I think this is one of the better cards in the set. Pretty simple. What do we have here? An Emissary of Sunrise, which is pretty good. It's nice to follow up a white card with another white card. Also of note, the Ixalan Archer is pretty nice. This card's gone up in value for me a little bit. Just because this is such an aggressive format, this is a nice defensive body that can really help you stabilize, and I appreciate cards that can do that. But Emissary of Sunrise kind of also does that, and it's on color. Also of note, I like the Skullduggery, and I like the Grazing Whiptail. I like the Whiptail possibly more than the Archer, but I'm still not sure about that. Yeah, I think it's between the Emissary, the Skullduggery, and the two green cards. And I think just for color considerations more than anything, I'm going to take the Emissary. I mean, if I thought one of these other cards was significantly better than the Emissary, I would just take it, but considering they're all close, I'll just stay on color. Stay on color again with the Bishop Soldier, but there's some good cards in this pack. I like Lightning Rig Crew. It's good on offense or defense. White-red isn't the best color combination to make use of the pirate clause, but it's usually not too hard to get some pirates. I also like Unfriendly Fire. I don't take it super highly, but I'm always happy to have multiples when I'm in red. Yeah, it's basically just Bishop Soldier or the two red cards, I think. I'm not actually sure what the correct pick is. I think it's the Lightning Rig Crew. I think it's a better card, but the question is Bishop Soldier close enough that it's worth it to stay on color? And the fact that it's a 2-drop is also really nice. Yeah, you know what? I'm actually going to take the Bishop Soldier here. Let's see, there's an uncommon and a rare missing, so we don't know a whole lot about signals yet. No, yeah, I'm just going to take the Lightning Rig Crew. Higher upside card. I think that's kind of what you need to do in this format. Growing Rights of Itlamok, I think, has been pretty established that it's not a very good card. There's another Ixalan Archer, which I could take here. Also a Sailor of Means. But unfortunately, blue doesn't work super well with white. So it kind of flies in the face of what we've been taking so far. But obviously, if I thought it was the best card, especially this early in the draft, I could just jump ship pretty easily. Like if we were to pivot into blue-red, Sailor of Means wouldn't be a bad pick. So I could take the Archer. I think it's just between these two. I don't consider Suncrown Hunters in the running here, even though we do have a red card, just because 5+ drops are so expendable. Especially if we're in like white-red, we want to be aggressive, we don't want to have that many, you know, expensive cards. But I think I'll just take the Archer here, because I think it's the most powerful card. Dire Fleet Captain, huh? It's certainly powerful. I might just take it here. There's not a whole lot else for me anyway. Yep, I think it's pretty easy pick. Maybe Black-Red Pirates is open. Gotta be willing to read signals in this format to give yourself the best chance of drafting a busted deck, because that is the name of the game here. Well, okay. Double Dire Fleet Captain, that's definitely a signal. This probably means no one else is in Black-Red. So that could be pretty nice. I also like Grazing Whiptail, but yeah, I think I'm just gonna see if we can dive into Black-Red here. This card can get pretty nutty if you end up with a synergistic enough deck, but even just as like a 2/2, that sometimes a 3/3 is gonna be good enough. Queen's Agent's fine, but I'll just take a Dark Nourishment. Although I do think this card's a little underrated. I think people kind of got caught up in the fact that, like, oh, this card is competing with all the other 5-drops in the format, it's not good, but the effect is still pretty strong. Just a Lightning Helix that's a little overcosted, but you'll take all the removal you can get, usually. especially because we're kind of pivoting into the color late. We're going to need to pick up as much removal as we can, because we're probably not going to have as much as we would like if we had just like started in black-red, for example. But let's pull out the green and white cards for now. I do like me a good aggressive deck in this format, so pretty optimistic here. Wily Goblin or Fathomfleet Cutthroat. Don't mind either. I've yet to really see Wily Goblin shine, but I've also yet to see the Cutthroat shine. The question is, how easy is it going to be to cast this Wily Goblin? And how good is it going to be in a hypothetical aggressive deck versus the Cutthroat? The fact that it's cheaper does make me kind of want to take it. And I guess it can let me splash, even though I probably won't. I don't know if that's correct or not, but I'm not missing out on much. Grim Captain's Call is okay. If we end up with enough creatures that are not pirates, it goes up in value a little bit. Otherwise it's just a sideboard card, I think. Not a pirate. Gilded Sentinel, also not a pirate, sadly. But Rummaging Goblin could be playable. Usually try not to start Rummaging Goblin in this format, but sometimes weird things happen, especially when we're waffling between colors. Ooh, that's a nice pirate. Alright, we're off to a pretty good start here. Just want to make sure I end up with a March of the Drowned. We can actually play that and be pretty happy with it. So now I'm just looking to draft the most aggressive curve possible. It's too bad that we had to pass up on a Skullduggery, but that's the kind of card that we are looking for. And then just a bunch of 2-drops, maybe even some 1-drops. I don't know how many 1-drop pirates there are in our colors, but there's a few. Rigging Runners wouldn't be bad, for example. What do we have here? Foil Carnage Tyrant, that's got to be worth something. Let's look that up real quick. Foil Carnage Tyrant. 11 tickets. Yeah, I should probably just take that, unfortunately. Because there's also a Fathomfleet Firebrand in this pack that I would definitely like to pick normally. But can't pass up on the free draft, right? Ooh, another Lightning Rig Crew and a Fathomfleet Firebrand. Ruthless Knave, I guess, is also playable. But I like the Lightning Rig Crew better. Even though I do like 2-drops, especially when we want to be aggressive, but double Lightning Rig Crew, when we're likely to have a high density of pirates, is going to be real strong. It's going to win us a lot of games. So I think it's a pretty easy pick. Legion's Landing is also pretty strong. Alright, I'm feeling pretty good right now, not going to lie. Tillamoly's Knight is good, even though we're not going to have many dinosaurs, if any. It's that or Ruthless Knave, which is a pirate, but not a great one. But at what point do you start prioritizing even mediocre pirates over decent to good non-pirates? I think in our case we actually are going to want as many pirates as we can get. It's kind of the way our draft has been going so far. So I think it makes some sense to play the Knave here. Just as like a 3-2 for 3 with a little bit of upside. Well, our deck is open, ladies and gentlemen. Passing so many Fathomfleet Firebrands, it's kind of disappointing. There is even a world where I pass this captain and hope to wheel it, but I think that's just too risky, because just the upside of having it in our deck is so powerful. Vance's Blasting Cannons. It's also a Headstrong Brute. That's actually kind of a decision. Headstrong Brute is one of the better 3-drop pirates in the format, but I think just the raw power level of the Blasting Cannons puts it over the top for me, especially because we're going to be looking to lower our curve as much as possible. I don't even know what to say about this at this point. Alright, Dual Shot is playable. Probably won't main deck it, but we could. We're a little light on removal still. So the one thing about the captains are, whoops, sort by mana cost again. They are going to be a little bit hard to cast. Like, having so many of them is good and all, don't get me wrong. But we are going to have some awkward hands where we have like 3 copies of it and only like 2 mountains or whatever. Which actually makes the Wily Goblin a little bit better, because if we have like a 9/8 mana base in favor of red, and we have like a Wily Goblin in our hand, we can start to deploy some black 2-drops on like turn 3. It's not the worst. March of the Drowned is also a pretty nice combo with Advance's Blasting Cannons, because we can cast it to get 2 pirates back, and then cast both the pirates, and that immediately triggers the Blasting Cannon. Alright, we get a Headstrong Brute back. This deck is nuts. Now the only thing we're missing is removal, which we haven't really seen much of at all. So I'm going to be prioritizing that pretty heavily here. But I cannot complain at all with the way this draft has been going. We're just getting rewarded for reading the signals here. I could have easily stuck to white and tried to draft a mediocre white-green deck, but this was the open deck, and we're probably going to have a pretty busted deck when all's said and done. See if there's anyone notable in our pod. I rarely check these days because you never play in pod anymore. It's always fun to see if like John Finkel's passing to you or whatever. Doesn't look like anyone I know in this pod, however. So removal at the moment is just the Dark Nourishment, and I guess if you want to count the Blasting Cannons as removal, but I don't really. So it's only when things are already going very well for you that it turns into the land. I also don't really consider dual shot removal. Swashbuckling I could play. If we want to be aggressive, that's a nice option to have. I would like Rile a lot more if it could hit your opponent's creatures, but that might be too strong. Pick off a 1 toughness creature, draw a card might be a little bit too good for 1 mana. Might even be constructed playable. So never mind. So yeah, cards I'm looking for here. Obviously Lightning Strike would be great. Contract Killings I'm going to have high on my list. Skullduggeries. Vanquish the Weak. You know, anything like that. Might even prioritize over pretty good pirates. Not like the best pirates, but you know, mid to top tier pirates I might even consider passing on for mid to low tier removal. What do we have here? Got a Direfleet Ravager, which is a pirate. We're just gonna have the rare deck with all the synergy, I guess. We're also not passing on any removal, so no feel bads there. Deadeye Tormentor is also pretty good. Cutthroats, whatever. But yeah, I think especially when we're going to be leaning aggressive, this card's going to be pretty nice for us. Don't have to be too worried with removal with the double Lightning Rig crew, because that can hold off most of my opponent's assaults. So I can get into some racing situations pretty safely, I think. But all the same. There's a Contract Killing and a Fathomfleet Firebrand. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to take the Contract Killing here, even though I would really like the Firebrand, and normally that would be my pick in this sort of deck. But I think at this point our deck is so strong that I just want to make sure that we have the removal to back up our creatures. That's going to be the most likely way we lose. This is one of the sweeter decks I've seen. This would be a nice way to close out the format if we can get a 3-0 with this one. Person who's passing to us currently is the one that's holding up the draft right now, taking quite a bit longer than normal. He's only taken 1 card versus the average of like 3 to 5 of everyone else at the table. Come on, bud. Here's a Skullduggery. Looks like a pretty easy pickup here. Over basically nothing. A lot of good cards in every other color but black and red, which is strange. The one interesting thing to note about the captain, even though, like, you might say that, like, obviously we're the only black-red drafter, but there could very well be black and or red, they're very black or red drafters to our left still. Because the captain's not a signal that someone is not in either of the colors, just not in both, if that makes sense. So it would make sense that there's still people drafting similar colors downstream from us. We just happen to be in the two that were wide open, luckily, so it shouldn't matter too much, even though it looks like we might get a little bit cut off here. 11 creatures. I would like to end up with a few more, but even if I only have like 13, I think that's fine, especially because all of our creatures currently are pirates. Or, yeah, the goblin is a pirate, actually. So yeah, just like 2 more creatures. Well, at what point do I stop taking Dire Fleet captains is the question, because now I might even want to just take like a Headstrong Brood over it. It's easier to cast. It fills... I don't know, would I rather have a 3-drop or a 2-drop at this point? I gotta imagine just taking all of the cheap cards as early as possible has gotta be better. Even though there is still even a chance that I wheel this. I mean, the only chance I don't wheel it is if someone hate drafts it, because clearly no one else is in our colors. But the Headstrong Brute will certainly not wheel, because someone who's drafting red is going to take it. I just got to take the captain. I can't pass up on it. It's too sweet. Stormfleet Pyromancer versus Direfleet Hoarder. It's basically a question of power versus curve. Also the Interloper, which actually slots pretty nicely into our curve. But the Pyromancer does kind of what I'm looking to do here, even though it costs a little bit more than the Interloper and a lot more than the Hoarder. It just, you know, interacts with the opponent, and it's also a pirate. And that should do it for our 5-drops. Now I just need to pick up a couple more cheaper cards. We should be good to go. Here I'm going to take a Deadeye Tormentor over the Stormfleet Arsonist, which I don't like very much. I think that's an easy pick as well. So there's our creatures taken care of. Revel in Riches I'm not crazy about. Don't see myself playing that. So I guess I can take Blightkeeper and probably not play it. Not playing Spreading Route, certainly. I could take Unknown Shores on the off chance that... No, I don't think I want to play it. I was thinking like maybe I'd want to play it just to... in case I end up getting a little mana screwed with all these Direfleet captains. We can like play them on turn 3 still, if we have an Unknown Shores in our opening hand, but that seems a little thin to me. I might play this Blightkeeper. Double March of the Drowned. That's actually going to be pretty good in our deck. Yeah, this deck came together real nicely. We even get to make some cuts now, most likely. Geez, Marauding Looter's so strong too, but I don't think I'm even playing it. Am I playing Sword Point Diplomacy? I don't think so. Pretty sure this card's unplayable. I'll take it anyway. None of these are playable. Doesn't really matter at this point. Our deck's pretty much done. So the only questions here are a couple tiny slots. We could consider Rummaging Goblin. Here, let's do this. Rummaging Goblin. Grim Captain's Call is actually not that good in our deck because the only things we have are pirates. Literally every creature in our deck is a pirate, except for the Blightkeeper, which I don't think I'm actually going to play. But the Rummaging Goblin is an option, as well as Makeshift Munitions, for a couple reasons. For one, it's a way to interact with the opponent and like throw our creatures to deal with our opponent's stuff if we need to. But also it's just a win condition because we are looking to be aggressive. 23 cards. So this could be the deck. So one thing I'm actually considering here is playing 18 land, which might sound weird, but given how strong our deck is, I feel like one way we're actually going to lose most of our games is by not having our black and red mana on turn 2 to cast the captain, and that increases our chances by like, you know, 2 2 and a bit%, whatever that is, by having an extra land in our deck. 2.5, I guess. Anyway, I'm not thrilled with this dual shot, so we might not play it. I also might not play Swashbuckling. So I could consider doing something like this. What if I bring these two in? Improves the consistency of our deck a little bit, reducing our explosiveness, but I don't even know if we need to be that explosive, because our card quality is so strong. And we're going to win long games pretty easily with like double March of the Drown, double Lightning Rig Crew. I don't think and the Vance's Blasting Cannons. So I don't even know if I need to go that aggressive. So I might do something like this. This makes sense to me. I wouldn't normally play Rummaging Goblin in this kind of deck, but I think it's worth considering here. So yeah, options other than the Goblin would be Swashbuckling, Dual Shot, not Grim Captain's Call, maybe Queen's Agent, but we can maybe side that in. Not a pirate, but lifelink is pretty nice sometimes. I just don't think we're going to need it. I think this is what I'm going to do. The only other question is the munitions. Yeah, it's just these two slots. We don't really need to hem and haw over them, because our deck's going to be great no matter what we do. Just trying to maximize my percentage here. And we could just like cut the munitions for an 18th land. And the Rummaging Goblin helps to make it feel less bad to play 18 lands in an aggro deck, because we can loot away the lands later. I guess also the Blasting Cannons can be considered a land, but not when we really need it, only later in the game. It's going to be a nice mana sink. Yeah, you know what? I think I am going to do that. I'm going to play 18 land. I'm going to go with my gut here. Do what I think is correct, just to make sure that we're going to be able to cast our spells on time. We also have the Wily Goblin though, I guess. So maybe just a 9-8 split is going to be okay, because this is acting as like a pseudo-swamp in that case. Obviously not in the cases where we have like Swamp in our opener, but I think a 9-8 mana base is acceptable. So I guess I will play the munitions after all. So let's go 9, 8. Just to be sure, let's sort by color. Make sure that that's what we want to do, but I think it is. Yeah, certainly, because all of the red cards we want early, and the black cards we're okay with playing a little bit later. And I think that's the deck, ladies and gentlemen. This deck came together real nicely. Let's see how it does.